This is where the fun begins.
Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
King Kong ain't got shit on me!
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the
Everybody
procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Say my name.
And here we go.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Grab your snacks, get your popcorn ready. It's about to get realish. I am Christopher Negron, and today I'm being joined by my esteemed co-host, as always, the pod father, the reason we're all here, our guy, Derrick Myers, as well as Matthew Tirado. It's amazing to have you back as well for the second episode of our Ology series, right? Really looking forward to this. And in general, we got a whole bunch of different topics to discuss today. Just to give you a little rundown, we're going to start by discussing some unpopular opinions about popular film and TV shows and characters, which always looking forward to hearing the hot takes of these two guys right here. And after that, of course, our feature presentation where we're going to be studying The Godfather Part II, which was directed, of course, by Francis Ford Coppola, starring Al Pacino. But before we get into all that, please just want to make sure that we remind all of you to follow us on all social media platforms, OTS Media Co. and OTS Media on YouTube. You can find us there, as well as subscribing to the podcast feeds, right? Make sure that whenever we get a new episode uploaded, you're getting alerted and you get it before anyone else. So please, looking forward to hearing your feedback as well. If there's any discussion topics, anything you want us to get to in future episodes, definitely let us know. But with all the housekeeping notes out of the way, let's get into it, man. How do you guys want to start this? Because I'm excited.
Yeah. Oh, me too, man. Me too. It's great to be back, guys. I know
Yes.
I freaking missed getting a chance to record with you guys. But yeah, so I figured nice little introduction there. I don't know, should I just start with my hot take and then try to warm you guys up a little bit and then make you question why I'm on the podcast?
Let's get it hot in here right now.
Let's get it. Yeah.
All right. So I think it's safe to assume that both of you are Christopher Nolan fans.
Yeah.
I would say more so. And I'm assuming you've watched a majority of his movies, both of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think Dunkirk is the best Christopher Nolan movie.
Okay, explain yourself.
There is no explanation. That's it. Dunkirk is the best movie. I don't need to back it up with any claims, any evidence. Just what it is.
So cinematically, story-wise,
everything.
Everything.
Better than Dark Knight, better than Batman Begins, better than Interstellar, better than definitely better than Tenet, better than Memento, and then I think there's like one. Yeah, I think Dunkirk is better than each of them. Obviously, joking aside, I think the reason being is, in spite of it being PG-13, and you could definitely see, like a few instances where an R rating could have really enhanced the movie. I think it does a really great job at building suspense, and with it only being, I think the shortest runtime out of a Christopher Nolan movie, I think it's around an hour and 42 minutes. It doesn't waste any time. And I think another interesting aspect too is that the story isn't told chronologically. And so, you sort of have three different perspectives. You have the sea, you have the air, and then you have the actual ground troopers sort of being faced in the middle of this intense situation. And I think there's something about Dunkirk where there isn't a lot of characterization. There isn't a lot of moments where you can sort of relate with the characters, especially since they're in such a heightened scenario. Obviously, I don't think any of us here can relate to being a World War II veteran for obvious reasons, but I think the film does a good enough job, or really does a phenomenal job at really conveying the intensity of war, and really just, I don't know, this being I think especially just from a cinematic perspectives and the way Nolan incorporated a lot of practical effects and not really relying on CGI, which is something that he's privy to at this point. So yeah, I think Dunkirk is a monumental achievement on every level. And it's a very surprisingly intimate film, despite being essentially a blockbuster movie. I think the budget was 150 to 175 million dollars, and he does not waste any expense at telling the story. So yeah, that's my argument.
Okay. All right. Um, that's actually not like the wildest thing because I've heard some other people say that too. I personally, the film I thought was cool, but like I'm not y'all. I told y'all this before. I'm not into like the like World War One and Two era films, and I'm just not into that. So I didn't even like the Call of Duty games. So I was just like those in that era of Call of Duty. But I mean, I get it. I get it. It was a good
I
cinematic
don't.
thing.
I don't.
No, I'm
Stop.
saying
Stop. Stop the shit, Derek.
cinematically.
Let's
No,
be real
no,
here. Let's be real here. Cinematically, it's a good movie. But
cinematically, it's a good
you
movie.
named a lot of those movies, right?
Yeah,
Listen, Dunkirk ain't even in my top three, buddy. So I don't know what the fuck
not
you
mine
talking about.
either.
Respectfully, it's
Not
not
mine
even in my
either.
top three. There's a lot. I mean, I honestly, there's some movies you didn't even name that might be ahead of Dunkirk. So I don't know. I just feel like I respect your opinion. I think ultimately it's not a shitty movie, so I can't be too mad, right? It's not like you're out here vouching for something that I'm just completely against, right? It's not a shitty movie,
Yeah,
but at the same time, there has been much better ones in his catalog, in my opinion.
yeah. Um,
Fair
yeah.
enough.
Inception is probably like that to me. That's definitely in his top three for sure. And Dunkirk doesn't beat that out to me at all.
I uh, Never mind. Never mind. I was gonna say I was probably gonna say another hot take, but no, we're gonna
What?
move on
What?
to the next.
No. What?
No, I was gonna say I think Inception barely cracks top five, but that's a conversation
Oh
for
my. Yeah,
for
we'll
another
have that
day.
conversation. We'll have that conversation
I
because
don't
there's
want
no
to,
way you actually think that.
take up take up the runtime talking about that take. So
All right. All right. Y'all want to go circle rotation for number ones and then go number two?
yeah. Sounds good
Okay.
to me.
All right. All right. Chris, what's
So
yours?
who's next? Okay. This one, honestly, I was thinking about this for a long time, and I don't even think that this is really, by definition, a hot take. But I'm gonna frame it as a hot take, right? Because I could frame it as a suggestion, and if I do, then it doesn't come off as angry, right?
Yeah.
The Avengers movies are very well done for the most part, right? But my issue, and I think that what needs to change if they're going to do either future Avengers or I mean, honestly, any Marvel movie at this point that's
Mm-hmm.
being put out, there needs to be some sort of preface montage. Give me like a 5 minute short summary that is well done, right? Make it a part of actual production so that even if it's an animated little like 5 minute short, like make some sort of story relevance explanation to this movie as a whole, because there's a lot of people that have no clue what is going on in the universe that show up to watch these movies. Why not make them enjoy it even more, right? It's a lost opportunity. It's very rare that movies that are connected in this universe, right, have this commercial success that people that aren't even really a part of the nuances of the universe still show up to watch them. So why not dig your heels in, get them to be invested in the series and what you are promoting, and while watching the movie, maybe the plot points hit a little better for the people that are in the audience. So that's my hot take. Give me some sort of representation of relevant moments that need to be understood to make this movie great. Because without it, I feel like a lot of people in the theater, sometimes you could hear, especially when people are reacting, we get the reactions and then someone's like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
don't we all get in this together?
Yeah. I actually like that because Disney Plus has these this section of shorts anyway, which would fit right into that, which I think would drive people to actually sign up for Disney Plus a lot more too, because for your point, that a lot of people don't know what's going on. So I like that. That's a good idea. No, I'm not mad at that.
I mean, I see the logic there for anyone who has not seen Marvel movies, but realistically speaking, I mean, it's safe to assume that those who have seen the main Avengers movies have dedicated the rest of their time watching the other installments. And so I think at that point, um, there's YouTube, and you just go there and you just recap. To be quite honest, I you know, and I think even so, like I think the Avengers movies are do a good enough job at making you like the movies in their own way without needing to have thousands of hours of television or movies to be watched. I think for the most part, I mean, you'll get more out of it if you've obviously again been a super fan, but for the most part, I think the movies can stand up on their own, you know. So um I think a recap is, at least in my opinion, wouldn't be necessary, you know. But
Mhm. I think it's safe to assume about 25%, and I think that's a low number, but about 25% of people that show up to watch those movies in person are with people that are fanatics and are not fanatics themselves. Um,
Mhm.
maybe converting that extra 25% to a more surefire turnaround for when their girlfriend dumps them, right? You want to bring them back. They're not with that girl no more, but they you still want them to buy that ticket. So who knows? I think it'll be a positive thing, and I think ultimately without it, like obviously, like you said, they do their best to try to make it a standalone movie. But on face value, like as someone who is with like informed about the nuances of the universe, right? On face value, yeah, there's little like funny moments here and there, but if I feel like if you're lost and have no idea and are watching these movies, you'll get a good movie. But what you get out of it with all the context is like 3 times better, in my opinion. So let's see, make it happen, Marvel.
I like that. So my first one, I actually think Jennifer Lopez is a better action star than romance. I think she I think she's actually I was watching did you guys see that movie The Mother on Netflix?
no, no.
Okay. So anytime I've seen any of her action movies like that or Enough, there was another one that she did I forgot what it was called. But I think she actually has she's more convincing as an action star than she is when she's constantly getting married in all these movies. I actually think she comes across as a more serious actor than in those type of settings than just like a hopeless romantic. So it's not like because I actually think that I don't like saying this, but I think she's a little overrated with being a um romance star because of the fact that you already know what's going to happen. It doesn't matter what the story is. It doesn't matter who her co-star is or whatever. You know the arc. You know how that movie's going to go. As an action star, like Enough was the first one that I saw that she did an action movie and I really didn't know. I mean, again, I was probably like at that point like 11 or 12, but I didn't know how the movie was going to go. You know what I'm saying? Like Made in Manhattan or whatever. Like any of those movies you've seen with her like that, you know how it's gonna go. She's gonna end up with the guy at the end, and it's all good. Like, but things like that is actually intriguing. And I was watching The Mother the other day, and I was pleasantly surprised by what I was watching because I didn't think that it was gonna be a good movie, but it was very well done, very well done. So, and she was believable in that as that character. So I'm 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 not mad at the idea of seeing more action movies from J Lo.
I,
So I have never seen a Jennifer Lopez movie.
Okay, that's
So
fair.
I so I cannot say whether or
That's
not your
fair.
take is hot or
Okay.
reasonable. So I'll have Chris, take the reins here.
I honestly, I feel like this isn't exclusive to J Lo. I feel like this is just a critique of the genre, right? Like I even thinking of Jennifer Lawrence. Like I feel like Jennifer Lawrence is in the same category, right? As far, in my opinion.
That's fair.
So yeah, I feel like this might be more of a critique on the genre than the individual. But my hot take on J-Lo, shout out Jenny from the block, right? I can't hate too much, right? It hits close to home as a Puerto Rican from New York, right? I can't talk too much shit because trust me, trying to say how respectfully I can say this. Many a nights have been spent thinking about Jennifer Lopez. I just got to make that very clear. But she's a terrible, terrible, terrible actress in my opinion, and I'll just say that as frank as possible. And she's even worse. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. But I
Singer?
think yeah. I think she's a much better live performer than singer, and everyone understands why. So with all that being said, good luck, J-Lo, because no matter what, there will never be a shortage of work for you. I promise.
That's hilarious. All right, Matt, go ahead, kick us off for round two, man.
Alrighty. All right. I think I'm gonna dread saying this. Because I think this might actually get a specific reaction out of you guys. The Amazing Spider-Man is the best Spider-Man movie. Yeah. So I'll have that sink in for a little bit in case any of you guys are ready to jump at it.
With
Andrew Garfield. Right? Yep. So better than Toy Trilogy.
I don't think you believe this. I don't think
it doesn't.
There's
it
no
doesn't
way.
feel like it. It doesn't feel like it. How is it better than any of the other ones?
I mean, I think just from a pure performance perspective, and I was actually thinking about it. So like, I think I'm taking out. So this is like for live action to be specific, because the animation, so like Into Spider-Verse and Across Spider-Verse, they're in a league of their own. Quite honestly. So for the purposes of live action Spider-Man movies, just to make it clear, obviously, the reason being is I think there's a bit of bias in it, and I've thought about this for like a little while now. So Andrew Garfield was my Spider-Man, because I was born 2002. I can't really say Tobey was mine, technically speaking, and the first Spider-Man movie I watched in theaters was The Amazing Spider-Man. I remember liking it growing up, and then I revisited it. I think a couple months ago it dropped on Netflix. I think now it's on Disney Plus. If I ever want to revisit again, but I think not only is Andrew Garfield like the best Spider-Man, but I think he gives the best performance out of the main three. He's way better than Tobey, who was obviously in an era where superhero films or really films in general had a cheesy appeal, that had a certain 2000s appeal that can't exactly be replicated into modern day. I think for Tom Holland, while he definitely has a lot of areas in his performance, especially in No Way Home, where I think right away of like Aunt May is definitely obviously sort of his last shot against Norman near the end of the movie, for example. I think Andrew, like even though the writing, like especially for Spider-Man 2, which was awful to say the least, like he definitely elevates the writing to really a whole different level. I think the core relationship between Gwen and Andrew is far more compelling than Mary Jane and Peter in the first film, or in the first in Maguire trilogy. Way more compelling than MJ and Tom Spider-Man in the MCU. I think even though the villain is arguably one of the weakest, if not the weakest, quite frankly, I think that it still presents a situation that, is it's still Spider-Man-esque. I think there are definitely a lot of cool sequences that they have in the film that simply weren't around really in the MCU, for example, minus a few scenes. I think visually, especially with the way they incorporated visual effects, is by far the best across all the trilogies, or live action Spider-Man. And so yeah, I think side characters work very well in the movie. I think Aunt May, we had the best version of Aunt May in Amazing Spider-Man. I think I think Gwen Stacy's father was a really a fairly decent, if not really good, supporting character who you definitely understood his perspective, and obviously seeing the dynamic play out between Peter, um, and Gwen Stacy's father in the movie was very interesting. So yeah, that's my argument.
I just at the conclusion of the second round, I'm surprised that I'm not as angry at you as I thought I would be. I'll say that. Um, Thinking you're wrong and being angry is two different things, right? So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
definitely don't agree. I feel like because of the context, right, and this being your sort of introduction, right, it makes a lot of sense in that
Yeah,
way. So I'm not
Yeah.
hating on it. It's I don't once again, I still don't feel like that's a bad movie, right? I don't. But I just can't agree, man. I just cannot agree. There's a level of nuance that Toby has that I feel like is missing. But hey, whenever I for some reason whenever I think of Andrew Garfield, the cat goes with the duck, right? And you have no idea what I'm talking about right now, right? But stick with me here. Stick with me here. Affleck,
Oh,
the prominent duck. Andrew Garfield has flat affect with majority of things he says. So I'm not a big fan, but once again, with all the context, I would say it makes sense. But I don't agree.
fair enough. Fair enough. Derek.
yeah. I don't agree either. But fun fact: did you know that Tom Holland is as old as Tobey Maguire was when he debuted as Spider-Man?
Hmm.
He's
No,
20 now. He's
that's cool.
27 years old. So
Interesting.
yeah, that is very interesting to see how they look at 27. How different they look
Yeah.
at 27. But yeah, I definitely don't. I obviously don't agree. And Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man, and the movies are the better ones. So
Yeah.
to me, but I
Wow.
definitely understand. Your
I
position.
agree with
Best
you,
Peter Parker
Derek,
too.
and I have that. I rank Toby's series second, and it's still
Yes.
above Andrew Garfield. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'll even go even harder. I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 is probably better. No, I'm joking. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
I was
go
about
that
to
far
say
out.
Jamie
Yeah,
Foxx's hair in that one automatically just lowers it from anything.
yeah.
That was a horrible
Andrew
costume, bro.
deserves a
That
better
was
movie. I'm sorry. He deserves a movie with a. He deserves to get the symbiote. Have him sort of be a vengeance-driven story where the symbiote sort of really enhances his anger after losing Gwen Stacy. Be interesting, but they're not gonna do it, so it's okay.
no,
But
they're not. They're not.
Okay.
All right, Chris. What's
I'm gonna grab the bull by the horns here, right? Because somebody needs to get upset by the end of this episode, and I think I'm gonna do it. I think I'm gonna fucking do it. So I could have went a lot of ways with this one. Thought about a lot of prominent franchises. Thought about a lot of individual TV shows I could talk about too. But instead of going that route, I'm gonna go broader here. Um, and this is pre-COVID. This is pre-COVID, just to give you a little idea of where this might be heading. Going to the movie theater is entirely an ass backwards experience.
what?
The reason why,
what?
hear me out. Yes, 100%. The reason why I will never, and I agree with this to this point, you will never see me in a movie theater watching a premiere of a movie ever again. Frankly, ever again. um, is this reason. Now I understand the camaraderie. I understand the aspect of being able to enjoy this in a group of other people, right? Um, there is no parallel when it comes to the setup I have and the sound that I have and the comfort with which I can lay in my own home and watch a movie to gain that same level of enjoyment. Me personally, I don't need the crescendo of other people's applause to make me recognize a moment as being special. And frankly, I don't like being in a room full of people that are frankly unpredictable, that I don't know what is going on. And most importantly, this is the most important aspect for me when it comes to the movie going experience. Everything is sticky. I'm pretty sure someone at some point has fucked in this very seat that I'm sitting in as I am stepping on the ground that is dried soda that I every time I make a movement here, on top of, and this is my favorite part, um, I'm not a person that bitches about disruptions, right? If anything, I think I talk a lot of shit when I go to movies, right? So I might be annoying some people. But most importantly, if if I ever am in a situation besides live sporting events where I have to cater to families of irresponsible parents with bastard children walking
Yo,
past my aisle constantly, forcing me out of my element while I'm trying to watch this movie, I might lose my shit. So, movie going as an event, as a spectacle, where I'm spending upwards of $50 to watch a movie that I could have watched in the comfort of my own home is a waste of my time, friends. So fuck the movie theaters, AMC. I hope you go under. Catch you guys next time.
um,
There's
okay,
so much
so
wrong with what you said. I mean, I I don't know where to begin. Like,
I do, I do. You're not doing it right.
Hmm.
yeah, I was,
I,
yeah,
I'm willing to bet you sit somewhere in the middle, like not all the way to the top, but not all the way down to the bottom rows. You're somewhere in
No,
like the middle rows. Where are you sitting?
I'm a back middle kind of guy.
Okay, you're on the last row, middle, underneath the
Yeah,
projector.
yeah.
Okay, that's the best viewing spot. One, but two, you're going at the wrong time, bro. You're going at the wrong time. I go to the theaters when there's. I love to go to the movies when there's nobody there. So matinees, no, you get a day. You get a day off. You get a day off during the week or whatever. Take a day, do PTO or whatever. But you can only do this like select movies because not every movie deserves to be in the theaters, in my opinion. I think comedies here's I think comedies are overrated for theaters, but I think that action movies, especially like what we're talking about with the MCU, uh, that's a theater experience, and you have to at least see it once on the big screen before you see it at home. Um, so yeah. I think you're just doing it wrong, bro. I think you're going at the wrong time.
yeah,
You're going like when the movie comes out type of thing. You got to go like a couple weeks after the movie comes out. when everybody's already seen the movie, go see it at that point where you can enjoy it by yourself type of thing. Like there are certain movies that need to be seen on the big screen. They
yeah.
need to be.
And if I can add to that point too, like, because Spider-Man's in my head right now. No Way Home, for instance,
Mm,
like when Andrew Garfield appears and Tobey Maguire appears, those moments
mhm.
are so awkward because you hear no crowd eruption. And a lot of films are like that because you can tell, like,
Yeah, I
when they're
feel that.
sort of setting up some big reveals that are not quite as impactful as if you were to watch it live in a theater with other people. You
Yeah,
understand?
you,
Think about the
I watch
executional
movies with
aspects.
other people, but
Well, I'm
like
talking about
other
multiple
random
people,
people I don't know. Uh,
you know, and it's
I
all
feel you.
encompassing experience. And I think, and another aspect you mentioned was like the stickiness of the seats. That's why you bring Clorox wipes. Like,
The floor sticky
it,
too, though. I'm not gonna
the floor
clean
is
the floor
sticky.
for you
oh,
guys.
no, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Take literally when you go to, if you go to the theaters, bring a Clorox wipes, wipe that down, have some nice hand sanitizer to be on the safe side. That's it. When in
Yeah, but
past my when
then
I've
you're
gone
gonna
with my
sit in a
mom,
wet spot.
no, it dries up quick. Clorox wipes dry quick. They take a few seconds.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what I've done in the past. They usually dry up like pretty quick, and they're not like, it's not like freshly wet. Pause, but it's like, uh,
I would argue it
um,
is with other substances.
yeah, Jesus. But and then yeah, yeah. This is taking a weird turn. And then the unpredictability aspect I think is applicable to like every single scenario. Like, especially since you're growing up in a city, and
Mm-hmm.
like that's his life. You know what I mean? Like I go to a restaurant. Like I work in a daycare, and like I'll right out the gate, like I've gotten used to unpredictability because some kids are willing to listen, some kids aren't. Some kids are trying to freaking like lick the walls and freaking like climb up bookshelves, and like sometimes you just had to accept that there's unpredictability, and not
Oh,
let that deter you from the
oh,
experience. And like restaurants are a prime example. Like, how many times that parents are sort of like, forced to bring a child along because maybe they didn't have a babysitter, or maybe just wanted to bring their baby along just so
No,
it gets
no,
exposed to the environment or whatever. I mean, you could
Exposed to
agree or
the
disagree.
environment.
no. If you have
Well,
a young
it's
kid,
actually a good thing you do that because you make sure you get used to allergens and stuff. We're not talking about science, but anyways, basically,
no,
like,
but I agree with that on Chris. So with him on that, if you have a young kid, don't bring it to the theater, especially if you know that this kid cannot sit still and makes too much noise. You better not bring your kids to that
so
theater.
I
Like,
I 100% agree. I just don't think it happens as often because you have to think about the timing. If you're doing a late night review, I can 1,000% promise you there is not a single kid under the age of 7 that is in that movie theater.
oh, in the
There's
late
no
you ones
chance.
in the late
Like in the
hours.
late night
You'll be
showings,
surprised.
Yeah.
no
I
way.
promise. You'll be
1 o'clock,
surprised.
2 o'clock on a Saturday and Sunday, get those earmuffs or walk out that theater. Like, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, I but at the same time, Chris, obviously I disagree, but I do understand sort of the points you brought up to the conversation. I just think for me, I've watched movies in theaters for years now, and so it's definitely holds a special place in my heart, you know, and everything. But I think the sticking to the seats though, I think it is a very important point. AMC, you gotta get your shit together. You don't want customers to be all weirded
Everything
out
is
by.
either sticky or wet. I gotta say that. And
Yeah.
honestly, I think this is more so a nostalgia thing than anything as far as what's keeping you guys wrapped into this movie theater experience, because
Yeah.
everything else is you can easily replicate at home and have the same exact conditions. I think it's more so like the routine of it, the I'm gonna get this and this and eat this while I'm watching it. Like everything is sort of formulaic, right? And I think that the nostalgia of that is what sets it apart more so than the actual experience, especially when you consider the inflation of it. Like when I was younger, as far as prices, I think it's a more affordable, reasonable thing to do.
At like five
Now,
bucks.
now you cannot ask me to go to the movies. Like you really cannot.
Mhm.
I don't think I will at this point in
Sure.
my life.
Bro, I'm telling you,
Is
matinee
it?
is like $10.
Yeah.
9, $10. I'll go to a matinee in a heartbeat. Like if I can make it. Yeah.
Yeah.
9,
I
10
feel you.
bucks. And
And
that's
I
that's
think
it.
in the expenses thing, I think that's a valid point to bring up, right? Like
And you
I
sneak in your
especially
own snacks.
I always
so
sneak in my own
I was
snacks,
gonna
bro.
I was gonna bring it up like yesterday. Oh, Rio Cinema, don't sue me. But I went to the corner store that they have in the mall. I brought a Pop Tarts. Put them right in my
How
pocket.
dare you?
Walk right
What
in.
flavor? This is important.
Pop Fuzz Sunday. That's the only one I can
Oh,
have.
okay. Why?
It doesn't have milk.
Whoa.
Did you know that?
No.
You
what?
guys know that? That's the
You would
only
think that would be the one with the
yeah.
milk, right? Yeah, that's
That's
crazy.
why I thought, yeah. That and strawberry, I think don't have milk. And maybe cinnamon. But yeah, it's the only one that doesn't have guaranteed eggs and milk in it. It has
Mm.
just wheat and soy.
Really?
Yeah, it's a little fun fact. I found out about
Oh,
that because
that's
I grabbed the box like this was like years ago. I grabbed it and I was like, I thought it was like a typo. So I went and grabbed another box. And I was like, oh shit. Like
Oh,
I can
that's
have it.
interesting. That's
But
interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's why you get your girl a big purse.
Yeah.
I got one for you. I think that Grandpa Joe and Willy Wonka is a poor excuse of a man. I think Grandpa Joe needs to go to hell. I think he's a horrible character because he look, he laid in that bed for I think like 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. 20 years with his wife and in-laws, right? No one could walk. His daughter was out doing like 2 or 3 jobs, working her hands to the bone. And now all of a sudden when Charlie gets the golden ticket, now this dude just pops up out the bed. Now he can swing on the bedpost and run around and walk. Poor excuse of a man. Poor excuse of a man. And it was a horrible character. He did nothing for that movie to me but irritate me. And I hate Grandpa Joe.
Chris, you want to go
That's my
ahead
hot
because
take.
Derrick is talking mad shit about one of my favorite movies of all time right now,
Whew.
and I'm not gonna stand for it.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I wanted to be upset, right? Like on the initial part of the rant, but you spoke to me, man. I agree. You have
Thank
made me
you.
a believer. There's
you.
not. I need nothing else. And on top of that, let's be real here too. There's a little bit of ethical concerns here as far as the
Yes.
logistics here, right? I'm not dropping off my kid alone, right? I'm a part of this, right? I'm a part
Yes.
of this shit. So yeah,
Yes.
no, I agree with you,
Yeah.
Derrick. Let's see.
They-
Now, it's fine. This
They
needs to
sat
be
there.
this needs to be a part of the actual thumbnail. Like we need
Yeah.
Matt right here. We
Bro,
need this a part of the
what?
thumbnail.
Listen, Matt, listen.
Did you see
They
the
literally sat there.
motivation?
They literally sat there and ate cabbage soup for how long? Come on, bro.
Have you ever
okay,
had cabbage soup?
This man and probably wasn't even seasoned. You know they didn't season their food.
Come on, bro.
You know.
Nothing, not even hot
Bro.
sauce.
You-
Grandpa
okay,
Joe
do
can
you
go to hell.
understand that like he has supported Charlie? The film literally establishes the fact that he has actively supported Charlie and his decisions for years on end, and that
That's what you're supposed to do.
he was
That's
bedridden.
the bare minimum.
But then, okay, you know, wait, you see, Voice of a Man. There's an example of the movie where he literally offered, literally offered him let me look this shit up real quick. He literally offered the man money, offered his grandson money. Or
Won't
buy
you
the
do
top
that
bar.
if they going on a trip? Isn't that standard practice?
Isn't
You're
he
gonna say-
paralyzed or something like that? He can't walk, right?
Yeah, but if you recall correctly, when Charlie asked, I would love for you to come along, and then Grandpa Joe would say, you know what, let me try it out, and then there's you could argue that it's like a fantastical film. That was meant to be taken seriously.
No, you
That's one of
don't
the few
go
movies where I
from
like,
walking
really
like Bambi, a newborn deer, to all of a sudden swinging on a bedpost.
It's a musical. So, prime example. That's fun fact.
What? Bro,
it is a musical.
No. That doesn't
It
matter.
is a
It does not
fantastical
matter.
musical, bro.
It does not matter.
Bro, but the thing is,
He's been sitting in bed for how long? He cannot walk. He cannot work. That was the presumption. The assumption, right?
Okay.
He
Well,
cannot walk. He cannot work. He is a poor excuse of a man.
No.
His daughter was literally working multiple jobs to support a household of six. Her husband died.
Also, he literally went and found a way to get his own grandson, his grandson a chocolate bar. And that's the thing too. There's an entire sequence of him literally trying to stand up momentarily, and that him having to get caught by his daughter and his grandson, and that he there's an entire musical sequence around him being able to walk again because he wants to be there in support of his grandson.
Miraculously, because his grandson got a golden ticket.
But what does he gain out of it? The entire family gains it. You act like the man is literally gonna freaking hijack the fucking the chocolatey choc the factory. I'm so freaking living right now. I didn't even use the right word. The chocolate factory. The freaking chocolate factory's fortune and take off with it, bro. He literally hugs his son at the end of the movie. He's not a Portuguese man. He's a man who very literally said, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna be there in support of my grandson, no matter what.
Wait. So hold up. His daughter working multiple jobs.
Okay, but you're under the assumption
Didn't
that
motivate him enough to learn to walk again.
You're under the assumption that he never once, prior to the movie, attempted to help his daughter. And
They were literally just sitting in the bed the majority of the first part of the movie.
How stubborn the mother could? Because again, we didn't really explore the mother obviously a ton, but there could be a stubbornness on her end because obviously I can imagine that having 4 grand. Yes, 100%.
Look at Matt blaming women again. Look at this. Look at this.
No, I'm not blaming. I'm not blaming. I'm saying from my perspective, right? If I have 4 elderly people in bed, I'm not gonna have them work a day, even if they can or cannot work. I'm not doing that to them. That's an example of stubbornness.
Could have at least worked at the store where it was.
I wouldn't let him work
at the candy store.
I would not let him work.
Why?
It's my responsibility. He's done.
No.
He's retired. That's my responsibility.
No.
That's what I'm saying. The stubbornness.
It was his responsibility to get the shit together before he had the motherfucking kids, so he didn't have to be in this goddamn position.
Okay, you understand that they probably had a small fortune and then they just got into poverty. There's so many illogical. No, we're not doing this. No, it's a fucking. It has to go musical, bro. What are you doing,
bro?
You act like it's a freaking Godfather Part II and Daniel showed up and snapped everybody. Bro, it's not that you act like dude.
He is not the main villain, but he is an antagonist for sure. He is not a protagonist.
Grandpa Joe
It's a great
Grandpa
character.
Joe did not
It's a great
walk
No.
until that boy got that golden ticket.
Because he
to go to the chocolate
literally got
factory.
asked by Charlie, "Hey, can you I would love for you to come," and he said, "Pause. I would love for you to go with me to the factory. Would you like would you like to come to the factory with me?" And that he literally says, "I can't. I'm sorry, my legs don't work." And then he said, "Let me try." It's like, "No, you can't." And they have an entire musical sequence of him learning how to walk again and to be able to move fluidly
My
enough.
my
That's the
problem
point.
is it took that for him to decide, hey, let me see if I can walk. Not the daughter working multiple jobs, and only bringing back
You
bare
don't know
minimum.
that though. And also, we have a freaking never mind. I was gonna say we have a Wonka prequel coming out, but that's about Willy Wonka, so Charlie won't show up. But
Yeah.
I was gonna stupidly say that in the prequel they show like the grandfather, but no, that obviously won't happen. But no, you can like say, oh, it's kind of weird. I don't know. I just
Why do you
disagree with
like
it.
him? Like, explain to me
Yeah, please.
why he's a good character
I mean,
more than anything.
there's a lot of I feel like everything I said it really rings true as to why he's a good character. Just the active support that he shows his son, the fact that he was there for him every step of the way, the fact that he opened the first chocolate bar with him, the fact that he went out of his way to get a chocolate bar for him, probably because obviously they have minimal savings, and there's a good chance.
It wasn't every step of the way until that boy got that golden ticket.
I don't know. It's a musical, man. Like I don't know what to say.
That's gonna be one of my new
This
my
shit is
lines throughout
crazy.
the show when we're going too far. I'm just gonna be like, it's a musical, man. Like we just go on. It's okay.
Bro. And honestly, that's hypocritical too, because I know I've talked a lot of shit about musicals, man. And and Willy Wonka, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Hey man,
But
I
know,
enjoyed this. Thank you, Derrick.
no problem. No problem.
yo, pathetic excuse that it's the fact that you said that. Like, what the fuck? Like the man, that's crazy.
What has he done? How about that? What has
the
he
fact
done?
that he it's not even the fact that you said Grandpa Cho. Like you could have said Willy Wonka is a dog shit movie.
No, it's not.
All right, you know what? I'll say I disagree. Let's get into it. Why do you think that is? Then you talk about Grandpa Joe.
That's what you're talking
and you
about.
go, he's what was it you said, pathetic excuse of a man or something like that?
Pathetic
I'm like,
excuse of a man. I said what I said, bro.
dude,
Grandpa Joe is horrible. He's horrible. Look, I'm sorry.
If you have a 3-letter first name, we got problems already. You are clearly not established.
First name's Grandpa.
You got a 3-letter first name. You are not established as a human being, let alone a man. So please.
I can't do it, bro. I can't do it.
Yeah,
Grandpa
crazy,
Joe
man.
is horrible. I can't rock with him. I rocked with him when I was a kid, but then he was irresponsible in the chocolate factory. Actually, instead of just staying with the group, like you're supposed to do, this man's got this boy walking around almost getting killed by a giant fan because they want to go play with bubbles. Grandpa Joe.
Actually, well, who instigated that though? Because I can't remember. I think was it.
He said, "Hey, Charlie."
Oh no, because okay, but that doesn't make a pathetic excuse for a man. Like you
No,
being
that just makes him irresponsible. No, I'm saying that just makes him irresponsible. That's
okay. So if you're gonna bring that, okay, I was gonna say because that's kind of not like a fair criticism because I think all of us.
No,
shit. We can talk about a musical, bro. We're talking about all right. You know what? That's all right. I was really about to compare it to real life and go in depth, offer some freaking life lesson. It's a musical. I don't know what to say anymore. It's a great movie. Grandpa Joe the Goat, and it is what it is.
The GOAT is crazy, bro. That is unfounded love right there. But
Charlie's a goat.
I guess that's how most of our relationships
I've
with
heard
our
you say that
grandfathers
Willy Wonka
are, right?
was a pathetic excuse for a man.
Love.
I can understand that because the man freaking
he was. Did you know? I just found out what the origin of Willy Wonka was, and that threw me way off. I apparently the Oompa Loompas were actually pygmies. So he took these.
What's that?
The Oompa Loompas, pygmies, just small people, but they're black, and it was a tribe of people in Africa. And the original book, Willy Wonka stole these people from Africa to work for him in his factory. That's the origin of Willy Wonka.
And they changed that for the remake.
For
The remake was more based on the book.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Actually, I did not know that was the original.
I just found that out. Yeah, I just found that out. That threw me way off.
Yeah.
Yep.
They don't apply that. They don't apply that in the actual 70s movie, right?
No,
it was implied that like he sort of like brought him in.
Yeah, like basically
like
I mean,
with free will.
it's
like,
not
he didn't, like,
implied that they're like, yeah. I don't think we have an idea of their labor relations. It's not clearly defined.
No, because I was saying,
there's no union. I'll promise
you're about to make
it
ruin the whole. I was like, are you serious? This entire movie I've been praising for years ends up having themes of slavery. I'm like, Jesus.
No.
Seeing the truth about,
but the book
Grandpa
definitely does.
Joe
Yeah. No, I did not know that though. That's is that really interesting? That's kind of this, like, oh, I mean, I don't know. It depends on how the book was executing it. Like maybe they wanted to show how Willie's ambition.
You're digging a hole, brother. This is not the route to go.
No. I was saying, no. I was saying like it depends on like either the author was racist, or the simple fact is that they're trying to show how like someone's ambition really gets in the way of like other people. You know, like you go out of your way to ruin someone's life because of something that you want, which is wrong, obviously. But
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean?
I get where you're coming from, but it's not. I just told them with this one.
Yeah. No, the guy's just racist. So yeah,
he's racist. Willy Wonka is racist, and Grandpa Joe is a horrible excuse of a man.
And we will see you guys after our break. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Dwayne from Past the Ox and Life's a Botch podcast. I'm coming to you with a real dope advertisement if you got a moment. Can we do that? Peep this. Yo, you tired of that uncomfortable feeling with your undergarments? You know what I'm talking about. Like, literally having to adjust so it gets real comfortable in between the, the real safe space. Or maybe just wedgies from just going underneath, you know what I mean? All that. Let's keep it in 100. Y'all know how I'm feeling. Y'all know how that feeling goes. Well, I want to introduce to you the ultimate solution coming from the #1 premium and fit athletic wear just for you. I'm talking about none other than Champ #1 Boxers. Champ #1 Boxers is a black-owned underwear brand, okay? They literally specify in giving you the most top-notch, high-quality, premium, adjustable and fittable and totally comfortable undergarment wear that is just for you. Not only is it something that you can wear, feel good in, feel confident in, and love, but it's also high quality, feels good, and most importantly, it is definitely fashionable, okay? Comes in a different, wide variety of so many different styles and themes to these undergarments, something to make you look good, feel good, and swag real good in the process, all right? So, again, did I get to mention that this is also a black-owned brand? It's a black-owned brand, y'all, so if nothing else, definitely go support that 100%. So, what I want to do is I want to tell you, head on over to OTS Media Co. on all social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. If you go over, you click the link in the bios, it'll take you straight to the Champ #1 Boxers website. You can check out all their styles, you can check out their bundle deals, you can check out why this brand exists, what it's all about, and trust me when I say you do not want to miss out on the types of opportunities going on right now on the site. Champ #1 Boxers. Make sure you do it for the champ in your life if you ain't already doing it for yourself, champ. All right? Champ #1 Boxers. Make sure you go cop those. All right? All right.
So as we return for our second part of this trilogy, really excited to discuss Godfather 2. The story revolves around the continuing saga of the Corleone family as we tell the story of a young Vito Corleone growing up in Sicily in the 1910s and eventually coming over to New York, as well as following Michael Corleone in the 1950s as he attempts to expand the family business into Las Vegas, Hollywood, and Cuba. Now, obviously, traditional sequels are just that, but this at the same time is a sequel and a prequel. So I think it's only natural that we start our discussion of the movie and its execution there. So please, just really interested to hear how you guys feel about watching a movie like this, right? Because there's not a lot of movies that exist that are a similar concept, and I thought it's a huge ask, right? But I thought it was done extremely well. So, what are your guys' thoughts on the format of the film?
Yeah, I think it's it's obviously much different than part one in that regard. I think that's what makes it a stronger movie, in my opinion, is sort of incorporating two of these major storylines. I think could go one or two ways, right? Either one is significantly weaker than the other, or both of them are just as strong. And then at that point, if they're both, done at a very high level, you sort of debate on which one is. And for me, it's difficult to determine which one is. I think because I've gravitated towards like Al Pacino's character after having watched the first one. It's easy for me to say like, oh, like you know, freaking oh my goodness, Michael's storyline is significantly better. Like, oh my goodness, like seeing him transcend to total monster, yada yada. But then on the flip side too, you obviously have a younger version of Dunn, or and then it's like, oh wow, it's interesting to sort of see how he became the man we saw in the first film, And this was very interesting too. It's kind of like, I never expected the movie to go in this direction. For them to literally do flashbacks prior to both movies and then um have the storyline pick up after the first. So it was really interesting and obviously brilliantly done, as I'm sure we'll both say. But yeah, that's what I'll say. So
Yeah, I this one is I think this one was my favorite of the trilogy. Um but there the storytelling, you're right, Chris, that this was both a sequel and a prequel. But I loved how it filled us in on a story, sort of like what you were talking about beforehand with the Marvel stuff, but like filling you in on the before without it feeling like so taxing, right? So like this, we're finding out Vito's origin story and all that stuff at the same time as we're getting more information on Michael's story and how he is becoming, as he is the Godfather. Excuse me. I'm not sure how many years are in between the in terms of story, how many years are in between the first and second films, but it does take a time jump between films, and it's just interesting to see the progression and everybody's storyline in this one. I know Chris, you and I talked about it for the first one, but I thought that of course, we get a little more of his sister. I forget her name, but we get more of her story with this than we did in the first one, and she didn't feel as so much as a damsel in distress type of character. Um, so I appreciated that, but this one was just amazing. Robert De Niro does a phenomenal job as Vito, and I think probably the only person that could have filled in that space and felt just as uh just as big as Marlon Brando was with that character. I kind of it was a very seamless transition, even though we're talking about a prequel for his story. It's a seamless transition. So from what you already know is going on.
For sure. And I think the task of what this movie's being asked to do, I know we got 3 hours to do it, right? But the
Yeah.
task is so big. And the fact that, I mean, having the foil between the two Godfathers and their sort of establishing moments, right? I think that really drives the story forward as far as like almost like a rooting for these people situation, right? Because at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, not everything that this family does is something that we should be rooting for, right? So and I think that's a big part of sort of why we love them, right? We understand their motives. We understand how they got to these points. And I think that really sets the stage so well for the many different points in the film where either someone was betrayed or someone is plotting their vengeance, right? That's like a through line throughout the entire film. So having all that exposition in a way that drives the story forward and it doesn't feel slow for a 3 hour plus movie. It's not a
Yeah.
slow movie. Like
Yeah.
it's moving. So obviously that's all positives and things to look forward to. As far as what makes this movie so good and what sets it apart is, I think, just really establishing a lot of family tropes, right? Like I think specifically with Fredo and his storyline and the way he fits into the family, I think all of us can relate to this, right? In some way, whether or not we had some grand betrayal, right? We all see family members going in different directions, right? And it definitely impacts you, right? It definitely impacts you in seeing how things are changing versus the image you had of this person, right, growing up, and having to confront those two things, I thought was super powerful. And then obviously leading to that infamous moment. um I just want to go into an anecdote, right? Because this is what we did last time, right?
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
excited to
Yeah.
talk about things and go into these different portions of the story. But before we get to Fredo and that situation, as far as like the Don, how do you, I always say this right, Fanucci, the Don Fanucci
Yeah.
storyline with Vito.
Yeah.
I just want to say I watched this movie for the first time in high school with a bunch of people that hated the Italian speaking scenes because they had to read, and I thought that was dumb. I personally really am a fan of those older scenes, right, and showing these different things because obviously we want to know more about him, and in some ways he's the most important character in Godfather 1. But just getting to understand how he got to the point that he was, his origin story is so dark, dude. Like that whole scene in literally the way the movie opens, super impactful, seeing his mother get killed after his father got killed, right in front of, like, it's your whole family gets wiped out in the matter of one scene right in front of you. And in my opinion, he should have died right there, right? Like we being real, he probably should have died right there. I don't know what stroke of miracle allowed him to get out of it. But from that point forward, no matter what, I'm constantly rooting for him. And I just want to say shout out to Francis Ford Coppola for continuing that theme with the oranges, right? Because when it came down to the final assassination attempt, I love that he wrapped the gun in the towel as well. But when it came down to that, we obviously saw that moment where he's there and he has he buys the oranges from a street vendor right before sort of plotting the assassination and then going through with it. So I just love that those through notes for a series of films still exist, and they're so subtle, right? It's not as if it's ever explicitly told, but whenever these things continue to come across and it's consistent in any film, if you can do it once, that's fucking phenomenal. If you can do that throughout multiple films, super well executed. So I was just a big fan of the prequel side of things, without even mentioning the sort of current day Michael stuff.
Yeah, and I think what I also appreciate too is that these films carry a lot of themes: betrayal, revenge, the American dream, particularly with Vito's storyline, or Don Vito. Um, and it's something like I always think about, like there's a Family Guy episode where they made fun of The Godfather, and Peter goes like, I didn't like it because it insists upon itself. And this is not the case. I think, you know, both the first and obviously I kind of want to keep the conversation on the second here, is that all the things presented are done in a surprisingly subtle way. And I think there's more of a focus on character depth and really allowing us as an audience to really understand the significance of what's taking place, rather than trying to tell us, hey, make sure you feel this, or hey, this is what the scene is about. I think that's one of the beauties. I think there are a lot of various motifs used in this movie. I think of the use of windows, for example. I think even one of the initial scenes where we see Vito seeing like the Statue of Liberty for the first time as well. I think for me, I think it's like that kind of filmmaking is something I appreciate because I think is not only important for us to sort of um I think it's important for us to really feel what the characters are feeling and be sort of given an understanding of, oh, so this is the direction they want to take with their lives. And I think having a good introduction is important to that because we're going to be following, at least in this case, some of these characters for over 3 hours long. So I think that's something that I appreciated very much about this movie.
Real quick before we move on, because I don't want to forget. I don't know if you remember when the doctor was examining Vito for right before that scene of seeing that at Ellis Island. He was marked with an X. Do any of you guys have any idea what that means or what that would mean?
Death.
Uh, was
That's
it
a that's a
polio?
That's a good guess. Both of you guys have good guesses. Apparently, at Ellis Island, if you were marked with something like that, they were flagging you as being either potentially to have a mental ailment or a physical ailment that could cause dangers to others. So I would assume that was alluding to obviously the things he and trauma he's been through. I mean, he looks all fucked up from the beginning, right? Just very much so like Andrew Garfield, flat affect, right? Got nothing going on up there, and he looks broken.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a super cool inclusion of historical accuracies, as far as him being marked in that way. But
Wow.
anyway, go ahead, Derek.
No, that
Oh,
was
wow.
good. That was good. Were you saying something about?
Oh no, you go ahead, Derek.
No. I was just saying that was a good point. I didn't even to be honest, I didn't even see that mark. I think I was more so paying attention to the surrounding his surroundings at that point as well. But yeah, no, that's a really good point.
I think also too, like it's something that I discovered because of watching like a few scenes from The Sopranos. I think there's like a point. It just reminded me because Chris mentions like the X. Apparently, whenever oranges are shown in like mafia films or TV shows, that means death is coming essentially. So anyways, I just really appreciate sort of like all the sort of like allusions to what what will happen to a particular person or sort of what's going to happen, you know, event wise. But yeah, I just love sort of symbolic meanings like that.
Why the orange though? I never, I didn't, and to be honest, Chris, I think I told you this last episode. I didn't pick up on that when watching the trilogy. Well, at least the first one, I didn't pick up on that. So watching the second and third one, I did look out for it. But why the orange? What is it? What is the orange like? Why is that chosen as the mark of basically the mark of the beast?
Yeah, I have no clue. I don't think there was ever like a strict definition or strict explanation. I would imagine just visually, it's a very popping color, right? And a very
Yeah,
vibrant thing. And in the ways that they appear, it's not like it's out of context, right? Like it's not just like
right,
someone tosses a fucking orange out of nowhere. It
right.
fits into the scene and it doesn't scream, hey, something's about to happen. But it is a through line in that way. And there's definitely like a rundown if you want. I could sort of read it out of each time where it was shown and then someone did die because of it. But basically, I just feel like it's a more visual thing than anything.
Okay, that's interesting.
So, real
Yeah,
quick, how do you guys feel about Fredo's character and obviously everything that went south and changed throughout that timeline, and the way things were handled? Right, I think it's important to talk about that. I feel like that's the biggest moment, in my opinion, of this film. Um, so, curious, how did you guys feel about Fredo's character at all in general, and then as things progress throughout the movie and we learn more?
I thought
I
Fredo
think.
was no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, this is like to say real brief. I think hindsight, when you consider that, at least the way I viewed it, the family looked at him as very sort of weak and fragile. And I think especially in this movie, you see that he really doesn't have the capacity to lead the family. I think that it's thrown right out of the gate, and so I think sort of having all this build up instead of having all this, um, I guess almost resentment for how others perceive him. I think sort of led him down a very dark path, and ultimately to it, or led to his penultimate fate. So I think that the movie does, I think, as much as you can sort of, depending on who you're rooting for in this story, right? I think at the very least you can sort of understand how he sort of, how he was motivated to do certain things, even though it comes at the expense of the people he loves and ultimately his own life. So
Yeah, I he strikes me more as like the outcast of the family because I was trying to think about it. I don't recall when Vito was alive that he was like, he ever discussed Fredo. I don't remember.
He was working with Mo Green in Vegas, so that's
Yeah,
why he was never really a part of the main story.
yeah. He never, but he was never someone that he even discussed like that. Like not even like it almost seemed as if Tom was more of his son than Fredo was, and that was very interesting to me because like Fredo was an opportunist. He was an outcast. Um, he was he was a bit of a coward too, right? He wasn't really someone that really just like had the balls to go after it and do whatever. Um, I I also found myself kind of like feeling bad for him
Mhm.
in a way, because it's not as if I think toward the end of the movie, we hear what he's talking about, like what he wants. He just wants respect. He wants to earn his way. Basically, he wants to feel like a man, and you can respect that. But never did he show any type of uh, what was it? He just didn't show any balls, bro. Like he just didn't have it to do it, to do anything outside of really just kind of like getting by, right? Like that was what I perceived his character as. Just the outcast of the family that really just didn't do much. You barely even saw him. But when he's there, he's there because you know he wants something really. So
Mhm.
I stay away from those family members so I could
Exactly. I actually
I get
am
it.
really a fan of his character in both movies because and you
Yeah,
might not remember this, but in the first movie, they specifically say in that meeting right before, obviously this is before the Michael Corleone "I am the Godfather" montage. So shout out that one of my favorite scenes of all time. But they're talking about Fredo's responsibilities in Vegas and how
mhm.
he foregoes a lot of them to try to fuck the waitresses that are there.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and that mention in itself, like that's an insignificant part of the story. Like
yeah.
that is there's no reason really for us to know that about him.
Right.
But then when you put it in context with the second one, it just really speaks to what you said. Like he wants to basically put his own position in the family and be a part of the family in that way, and he thinks he's doing that by following these different vain lifestyles. I mean, look at his wife and the mess that she
Yeah,
was, right?
yeah,
So it's almost like he's chasing status through ways in which he thinks is going to get him, and clearly they don't. um but in a weird way, you do kind of sympathize with that. Like you kind of understand. Obviously, I don't agree, wouldn't do it that way myself, but you understand how someone in his position would be led to that lifestyle. And the craziest part about it for me was like, I remember the first time I watched this, just coming to realize that he was involved with that assassination attempt on Michael, and that he had
yeah,
knowledge of it and didn't say anything about it. Um, that part, it was where I lost all sympathy and understanding for him as a character. It was almost like at this point now, it's only a matter of time before you do die. Like I was like, it's not a debate. He's gonna die as soon as that scene played out, and obviously the kiss of death, another very iconic scene, which you love to see in front of everyone. Just so angry, but doesn't say anything, but he says everything. Like I love that. But there's just so many nuances with the small moments because it's not like he's a big fixture in one or two, really. He's a big fixture in two because of the reality of what happened, right? But he's not there for a lot of screen time. But every time I feel like he was a part of a scene, um, it was very impactful. And I think the fact that we can juxtapose Michael and Tom Egan and all these other characters with him and just being the absolute piece of shit that he is, with all due respect. I think that's the key, like, check marks you need to have with a villain in any film, like where you understand their motives. You would never go about it the way they would, and it just makes you hate them even more. Um, but there's one line, I'm trying to remember exactly what was said. Um, but when they're discussing whether or not he knew that um they were trying to kill Michael, and instead of saying no, like I didn't know, I didn't have no parts in this, I think he said something like I didn't know it was going to be a hit. And that in itself, like that, the nuance of that in itself is like, that says so much about you. Like the fact that you think saying that is going to absolve you from being involved in this really speaks to who he thinks he is, right? Like and what he thinks he can get away with. So I just love those dynamic moments between those characters. It really shows A, Michael's strength, and B, his fucking weakness, to be frank.
Definitely. Yeah, I can. Damn, that was amazing. Because a bit of myself. I don't know. I mean, actually, are you fine if we talk about like a specific? This is more. I no doubt we're gonna go into this character a bit. Are you fine if we sort of jump forward to a specific scene in the movie? Is that right with you guys? Yeah. So the one that stands out to me, that I view it as iconic, is the abortion scene, not the actual like or the abortion reveal. And I say all that because I think that moment epitomizes so much for the character of Michael. And I say that because like it starts off with like it's very clear that sort of Michael's ego is getting the better of him. And I think for him, the fact that the one person that he's supposed to love or loves ends up being the one that beat him. Because if you think about it, like, and mind you, I haven't watched part 3 to really, justify the statement, but you can really venture to say that, like, you know, Kay was the only person to have ever beaten Michael, if you think about it. And I say that because she managed to take away the one thing that he wanted, that was really to keep expanding the family, really without his consent. And I think the irony of it all is that as Michael is sort of going through with all these hits and going through future ones and everything, he has the audacity to look at Kay as a monster, but he himself is already a monster, And so I think that scene, especially, is set out obviously outside of the acting component. Is just, I think, from a story perspective, if that scene wasn't included to really show how dramatically, or sorry, how Michael has changed so dramatically, then I think the film could have faltered a little bit, because I really don't think there could have been a better scene to really encompass what I think Francis Coppola wanted to show to the audience. So I just figured I'd bring it to your attention.
I was so excited to talk about this too. I was just kind of waiting, and I love that you said it the way you said it, because real quick, I know you said, without this movie would have been entirely different. Shout out to Talia Shari, who's actually the actress that plays Kay Adams. She was the person who actually suggested to Francis Ford Coppola that this is how the scene was to happen. Originally, it was supposed to be just a miscarriage, and as almost a oh shit, thank you so much moment, he actually wrote in the scene where she was pleading with him to not kill Fredo. So gave her more scene, like more scene time because of that suggestion and the impact it ended up having on the final film. So that wouldn't have even existed without her input and suggesting, hey, this will be so much more impactful, and it fucking was. So yeah, definitely an iconic
Wow.
point of the movie,
That's wild.
and really shows, right, a lot of the times as a director, you're asking for these actors to really dive into these characters, and in some ways, who better than those people being asked to do that, than to really truly assess where their motives would be and what would be the most impactful. So definitely a lot of happy moments listening to actors that suggest character moments like that. That's super cool.
Yeah, I Michael goes through a whole lot in this film. Like, I, it's weird because it's like, again, there's a lot of time that goes on just in this film. There's a couple of years that take place, and um, one of the one of the wildest parts about his whole story arc is that um you see at the end of the day he really wants to legitimize the family. He wants to make sure they're going in the right direction, and kind of get out um of this family business, so to speak. um I don't think he knew it was going to take as long. Right, I think he kind of like figured he could kind of like get in and kind of change things and then get out. um but one of the things that I found very interesting was just his story overall, was the fact that he's in Italy and marries forgot her name, but he marries this woman, and her death. I've seen this movie before, but again, like I told you, Chris, last time, it's like it's like my first time watching it again because I haven't seen it in so long. That I forget different things take place. But her death, uh, I almost felt like was, even though her character didn't have a lot of screen time either. Like she wasn't a big portion of the movie. I almost feel like her death kind of catapulted him into um I guess trying to have a normal life, like trying to fast track it a little bit more, um to get this whole thing out of that space of where they were as being in crime. Because you could see the difference of where he was when he was in Italy, and of course he is the guy there. He's got guys that are working for him, but he just kind of like wanted a simple life, like a quiet life. You could see that that's what he had over there, and it got interrupted by her death. Um, with that bodyguard betraying him, and um, uh, you know, exploding the car the way that he did. I think that's one of those things where it's kind of like, to me, it was one of those characters. His wife's, well, his first wife, um, is one of those people that her character doesn't get as much like attention, but it is honestly her death that kind of like gets him more antsy to get out of this danger zone, right? Like, so I think that, to me, I think that's one of the most impactful aspects of the trilogy, to be honest, because that's one of those things like you see, and this is this famous line that you hear about in the end. I mean, in the last film, where it's like, keep trying to get out and they keep pulling me in, right? Like he obviously wants to get out. Like that's what he wants, but he doesn't get what he wants in this movie. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I don't know. I think her character was it's just not she's not mentioned a lot when people talk about this trilogy in general, but she's one of those that have a really a lasting mark on Michael. I think moving forward
Yeah.
from her death.
It's a really good point. I never even like thought about her when watching Godfather 2, but that's a really good
Yeah,
point. Especially
Yeah.
because in a lot of ways, like you said, what he wants and what he has to do are never aligned, and his
yeah,
duty is always like what ends up coming first. Like even that moment with Kay where he's like, what did he say again? He was like, "Oh, you promised." She said, "Like you promised me within 5 years that the
yeah,
family business will be entirely legitimate." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm trying." And
yeah,
I don't think that he thought he was lying when he said that, right? Like I don't
yeah,
think so. But at the end of the day, you get forced in different directions when you're in a position like he's in, and I think that's what adds um to really like bring home the idea of like what these mob families are.
hmm,
At the end of the day, we know out of if anyone was to be anointed, it was Michael. We went through that process throughout the first movie.
yeah,
But even with him and us knowing, hey, we're in the best hands we possibly could be in right now. There's still a lot of moments where it's questionable, and I don't not that you don't understand, but you don't agree, right? There's moments where um, it's it's almost like his hand was forced, and in a way, even if he wanted to do something else, he just can't because at this
right,
point you need to respond the way you need to respond.
yeah,
And it sort of brings it back to like that idea of like, yeah, no matter how good you are, you're gonna end up being tainted somehow when you're working in this line of business. So it's good.
yeah, yeah. And the family looked to him to lead before Vito even died,
Mhm.
right? Like he had the responsibility of being the Godfather long before the actual Godfather passed away. You know, I think again, I think that's one of those things where it's just someone getting something that they didn't want, and like juxtapose, you look at Fredo, he wanted that responsibility. You know, like I think he wanted the not the responsibility. I think Fredo wanted the what came with that notability. And I don't know that Michael actually wanted that. I think Michael just again wanted that simplistic life. You know, I don't think he really cared about all that other stuff because it didn't seem as if he ever cared about it. It's just to me, it seemed like as if he was just like tunnel vision on what the end goal is and what I got to do to get there. It didn't seem as if he truly cared about all the glitz and glamour that came with his position. You know, like you could see plenty times where he just kind of like tries to like
Despise
get
it
out of the
almost.
spotlight. It's like, yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Almost
Yeah,
despise it. Yeah. And
yeah,
I'm glad you
yeah,
mentioned that too, because like, you know, jumping I'm sure we're gonna go back for a little bit, but like even jumping forward to the end, like the only way the main way he consolidated all of this power, right, is through vengeance, you know? Um and so yeah, I think like it's just a really like crazy thing to think about. I'm sure, you or Chris can really expand upon that 'cause I'm sort of trying to, collect my thoughts, but yeah, I think
no,
it's
you're good.
a very good point you brought up.
Oh, yeah. I think he's just one of those. He's a complicated character. I think honestly, I think every character in this film is complicated in their own way. Um, I think Kay is Kay is one of those characters to me that just is she's it's weird. It's weird because she actually you could tell she loves Michael. She never loses her love for Michael. I don't even know that she ever really loses respect for Michael. I just think that she just does not want to be in this position, right? Like she wants to, of course, do what's best for her family, and all that other stuff. But I don't think she ever really loses her respect for him. I just don't think she ever agreed with what he did, and nor did she ever care about what he became, right? And I think there's a complication there because this is the father of your kids, and again, to bring up what you guys were discussing earlier about the abortion, like, you know, she obviously loves Michael, but she held on to that secret for so long. You know what I'm saying? Like, Michael thought that this was a miscarriage, and she said, "No, I didn't want to bring another kid into this world. I didn't want to. I don't want to perpetuate this with anyone else. Right? Like,
Yeah.
this needs to stop." And it's like it's weird because, I mean, it's not weird, but you can understand what her what her perspective is, because you have two kids that are already in this lifestyle, growing up and seeing all this stuff around them, and you're thinking of you're pregnant, right? Like, you got another kid on the way, and that's what goes through your mind, is like you don't want them to experience all of this, and so you think it's just, you come to the conclusion that it's just better to not have the child than to have a child that experiences all this. And I think that's a very complicated decision to make, right? Like
Yeah.
that, to have an abortion because you would rather do that than to have this child grow up around this much violence and betrayal. That's complicated on a lot of levels, man. It's
And
very interesting.
yeah, and I think you have to also consider, like, not even consider, because you mentioned it too, is like Michael sort of expressed so much anxiety with
Mm-hmm.
the thought of losing his family, right? And mentioning the abortion scene once more, like hearing the words, this was an abortion, right? And this was intentional, right? Like, this is
Yeah.
an intentional decision to hurt me, and really to hurt the way I can expand the family business, right? And so Michael's self-centeredness really comes full swing. Obviously we see him strike K down, but then on the other hand too, it's like I mentioned it before, but like his ego has just gotten in the way of him to make rational decisions, and that we
Yeah.
see him literally jeopardize his own safety just to
Yeah.
say, you know what, you know, I want to do this because, for all intents and purposes, he wants to be done with his life, or at the very least, he sort of like, you know, has this. I mean, I don't know if you could really interpret this way. Maybe this is the wrong way of interpreting it, but like the first thought that I came to mind is like, okay, like if I'm going down, like I'm like if I'm going down, I'm going down with a fight, and
Right.
so I'm not letting Kate take away my children. I'm coming for them. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That's what he did, and it's like, I don't know. I just think like it's like what's it called? I just think like even like obviously when Michael and like Kay have that exchange, like obviously near the end of the film too, is like, well, like Michael's definitely left a mark, and not the one that maybe he originally intended. Definitely not the one he originally intended. Like he has become, a literal monster, right? He's, become, you know, something that he does not want to be. And that's really, and what that is to be just a typical, I think it's like the words like Mafasio, or like Mafaso, like basically like this mafia,
Mhm.
like authority figure, I guess. Like, and I say that because I can connect it back to part one, because, like this life was not meant for him.
Mhm. Yeah.
Really wasn't. He wanted that private life, and ultimately, um, we see a man who's not the same as he once was. You
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
so
Definitely hit the ground running. And my favorite part, and I just thought about it in this context, and then we can move on because I know we've been talking about this a lot now, right? But my favorite part about the dynamic with that scene specifically is like the entire time, all the flack she's been dealing with, all the time she has been slighted by Michael, by him not doing what he said he was going to do or whatever.
Mhm.
In his mind, I could imagine those were never intentional, like, what's the word here? Like intentional moments of disrespecting his wife's word, right? Like he was never intentionally saying, I'm going to do this to not do what I told you I was going to do. Like I'm sure in his mind that was very much still his priority, but the business comes first, right? So you have to
Yeah.
sort of weigh those things out. This was the only opportunity she had to get back at him with intention, to say, not only am I tired of the bullshit, literally, but this is the only opportunity she could have had to have an impact on him like that. I mean, just think about the situation with his first wife. She died.
Mhm.
He came back to the States and within a year was back with Kay again. Like, I'm
Right.
sure
Right.
if he, at any point, she knew too that he finds out and she could probably get killed for this, right? She
Yeah.
knew this, but she already fully accepted that I need to do this for myself for those reasons, but also I'm gonna make sure you specifically understand why I did this, and that
Yeah.
that is just brilliant for sure. And then just to clarify with the statement I was making earlier, it wasn't Kay Adams' character, so I messed that up a little bit. It was the sister Connie. So the woman who played
Connie.
Connie was the one
Yes.
who made that suggestion. And that's why she ended up getting the larger part later when speaking with Fredo, which I mentioned. So just wanted to clarify
Wow.
that.
Okay, I got you. That
Yeah.
make okay, gotcha,
That's
gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
she was very interesting too because you see like a lot of her dynamics play out with this film. Um you can almost see like where she like at the beginning of the movie she's kind of like wilding out and not taking care of the kids type of thing, like leaves the kids with the family and she goes off with whatever man around the world type of thing. Um but to see her, I think her evolution to where she's kind of like, she's working within the family business and she's supportive of Michael and like she's actually like active, right? I thought was a lot better. Again, a lot better than what happened than the Connie we were introduced to in the first film. The Connie we were introduced in the first film was just she was just slapped around and kind of abused type of thing and here she's kind of like taking a stance, like she's not afraid to actually make her voice heard, right? Even if she's wrong, she's okay with actually like voicing her opinion on stuff and um I'm not going to get into like what happened with the third film, but uh I think she was very assertive, let me put it like that. She started, you can see her evolution into becoming more assertive, which you see more in the third film. But I can appreciate her character a little more in this movie than I did in the first one. You know, I thought she was really good, so I'm glad that that's what took place because that whole I think that the abortion reveal was just as impactful as as Michael's wife being killed over in Italy. I think that was one of those impactful moments. Is small, right? It's not like one of the bigger plot points in the film that you just immediately think about, but it's one of those turning points in a movie because you can see how Michael went from loving Kay to just despising her and hating her, right? It was one of those things where like I can't rock with you anymore. I mean, to the point where the kids couldn't even see the mom. Like that was very very intriguing to me. I think Michael, you can see where he absolutely lost it at that time. Like he lost it, and it's very interesting because up until that point, you see a character that, and we talked about this before in the first episode, Chris, but like he was one of those characters that was highly composed, the entire time you saw him. He didn't get too high, didn't get too low. He stayed right there, right neutral. And this was the moment. Like I don't even. It didn't even seem as if he lost it when his wife died. He lost it when Kay told her that she had an abortion, and that's where he just flipped. Right? Like, of course, he's still strategic and all that stuff moving after that, but it was one of those things where he just he couldn't trust anyone really, to be honest. Like, I mean, his whole relationship with Hyman Roth was very peculiar. You know, Hyman Roth was one of those characters that, you know, you liked him as a character, but the more you saw, it was like, oh, okay, this is what this guy's about. You know, like it's I don't know. I thought his character was very complicated too, very interesting, very intriguing, but complicated.
Yeah. And I like too that in all those moments, right, we're a fly on the wall in all these meetings and all these get-togethers, right? But we're all rooting, right, for these things to work
Yeah,
out well.
yeah,
So yeah, culminating with the point where he makes the decision that he's gonna get him killed as well. It just, I don't know, man. I love this movie. There's so many different parts of it to like. There's so much to talk about that it's like, how do you even how do you even focus
yeah,
on one
Yeah,
part
I
of the
know.
movie more? Like we didn't even discuss Hyman Roth this entire time, and that's one of the main characters of the
Mhm.
entire film. So um with all three of these movies, I'm sure there's just so much stuff, so many different angles that you could sort of look at it from. Really speaks to how great these are. So I think it's appropriate now, if there's anything else that you guys want to wrap up with, A, but B, that we give our ratings, right? We got to give our star ratings. um so because I'm not sure that we did that last time. So any
mm,
closing words, and please, looking forward to hearing you guys ratings.
Boy.
you go.
Um, yeah, I think 5 out of 5. Um, I think. Oh, actually, I didn't even offer my thoughts on the first Godfather, but yeah, quite simply, excellent film. You know, uh, that's all. Excellent film.
So I say,
That
give
one
me
of
a
my
hot
ones.
take. Give me.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That I'd probably give like a 4.5. This one a 5, because I think part two is a technically, like from a filmmaking standpoint, is a technically better film. Um, I think because Coppola has so much experience behind the camera making the first one, he sort of made a lot of improvements. I think even his use of space. I know he didn't. I will try to wrap it as quick as I can, but his use of space in a lot of scenes, I think, was really done to really contrast the sort of power dynamics between the family members. I think of like um oh my goodness. I'm forgetting like the mother's funeral. I'm forgetting the
Yes.
mother's name. Like the mother's funeral.
Yep.
Switch the signs is sort of like distinguishing. Okay, so these people are valued more than others. I think again is really a testament to sort of the way Coppola like uses a lot of symbolism. But yeah. So I figured I'd mention that. Easy 5 out of 5, and I'm looking forward to watching part three, which I know is controversial for some, but I'm still looking forward to it nonetheless.
I'm gonna hop
Yeah.
ahead of you, Derek, just because you excited me once again, Matt, because you reminded me of something that I honestly would have forgot to mention had you not have mentioned it. Because we already went on our Fredo rant, so I definitely would have
Yeah.
threw this fact out the window. But funny enough, there was a big point of contention between Mario Puzo and Francis Ford Coppola, the director and obviously the writer of the books, on whether or not they would kill Fredo at all. Like that was a conversation for a long time where they didn't feel like they should have killed Fredo, and eventually they came on the agreement that, yeah, I'll let you kill Fredo, but it has to be only under the condition that it's after their mom passes away, so that their mom doesn't have to deal. And the fact that that was agreed upon that way is just so cool, bro, and so spot on, because obviously the characters in the film have nothing to do with that decision, but it just fits on what would like the family do, right, so to speak.
Yeah.
Love that decision, love the movie, and I agree with a lot of the points you made, Matt. I think this film stands out particularly in this trilogy as the best. Personally, I actually like the storyline of Godfather 1 better. But I agree. I feel like the execution as well as the culmination of both movies, like I feel like the Godfather 2 really is the high point of the series because it gives you so much new stuff to bite on, but it also wraps up so much old stuff too. So yeah, such a good movie. I give it a 5 star as well.
Yeah. Um, I actually, to your point about the mother's death, um, I actually I took that as kind of like being consistent with the first one. So you remember when what was the older brother's name?
Sunny.
Sonny. You remember when he was killed, right? And they were down in the morgue. Vito the um told the guy to get him, you know, dressed up. I don't want his mother to see him like that, right? And it's almost as if because it kind of kept with the theme of keeping the mother away from all of this, like even with the death aspect of it, not seeing the body in that shape, like so I kind of like just took it as that whole thematic thing with the films. But I mean that's an amazing trivia point. um no, I think this one was my favorite one of the trilogy for sure, because I mean Robert De Niro's performance as Vito to me is just spot on. It's phenomenal. It's almost as if that's exactly who Vito was prior to the movie. Like that's prior to the first movie, I should say. So I thought the movie in general is phenomenal. It's very well balanced for a 3 hour film. Very well balanced to basically give us two movies in one. I can appreciate that. So yeah, definitely 5 out of 5. It was definitely to me that was a perfect movie. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So yeah, love it. And honestly, it speaks to where you're talking about again. Can sequels surpass the original? And I think when done properly, that's what's supposed to happen. Honestly, the sequel should outdo the first, and then if you have a trilogy, the third should outdo all three. Or at least wrap up what took place in the first two. Um,
Keep raising the
I
standard.
Yeah, you raise the standard. That's to me that's what it should be. So I thought this movie did that, and there's nothing to complain about for me.
Hell yeah. It's only appropriate that the Podfather brings us home on that one. So with that all being said, let's go around the horn, give our socials, make sure that you follow our stuff. Of course, you can find me at Negrong MMA on Twitter. I'm at 513. I can't get over the hump. Can't get over the hump of this 10. I don't know what it is. I can't get to 520, man. So help me out. Really looking forward to continuing to hit these milestones. I know I've been saying and promising on many shows that the MMA archive will be back, and I've just been doing other shit. It will be back, I promise. Really looking forward to getting back and doing that, and also putting things into context. You could also find me on Instagram at Chris Negron _ and then random anecdote because I'm plugging. I might as well plug. Um, by the time this goes up, it is officially fight week for the GOAT, in my opinion, Alexander Volkanovski, going up to face Yair Rodriguez. So check that out. That's my plug for the week. Shout out to who I think is the best mixed martial arts fighter I've ever seen compete. But with that being said, looking forward to that. Matt, please give the people your socials.
It's gonna be Matt_T 29 over on Instagram. And thank you so much for the support. I miss uh doing the last episode with these guys, discuss the first Godfather, but nevertheless, appreciate doing this. And have you watch the video, watch the last episode. You guys show a lot of support, and it's something that we deeply appreciate. And it's one thing I can ask to the audience and to you guys. If any of you have TV shows or movies that you recommend me to watch outside of the Godfather trilogy, please let me know, because I am struggling big time. I don't know what I want to pick up on, so figured I'll leave that message out there. So
Here's one from on Prime Video. That's a 10 episode series. Check that out. It's actually really good. Really good series. So
which show was that again?
From
From?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, really good series. So I'm actually toward the tail end of it right now. So really good though. And also Jane the Virgin. Check that out if you haven't seen that yet. But yeah, you can follow me at Derrick_OTS. That's DERRICK, the black way to spell it. But as Chris mentioned in the beginning of the episode, please follow OTS on all social media platforms, OTS Media on YouTube, OTS Media Co, all social media platforms. Hit that notification bell, subscribe if you have not done so. Again, let us know what you guys think. We are getting back to it with a lot of stuff, because a lot of stuff has been going on behind the scenes with different people. I've been out of commission for like the last month and a half, 2 months. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm going to be getting back into, where you'll see a lot more stuff coming out. So please be on the lookout for all that stuff. Thank you guys for watching and or listening, and appreciate your support more than you guys know. We'll catch you guys next time.
Peace.
Peace.